Hi, everybody. I have a new guest in the series today, and her name is Claire. And this is a really important question to ask, and we want to hear about her journey as to how she ended up leaving her marriage and why. Claire, tell us a bit about your journey.
Thanks, Ange. Um, Firstly, to say that when someone stands at the aisle, they never expect to be ending their marriage, no matter who that person is. No matter if it's Christians or people that don't believe, whatever religion it is, no one expects to leave their marriage when they stand at the aisle. And they look the other person in the eye and they promise to be with that person for the rest of their lives. And I think particularly coming from the standpoint of a Christian viewpoint and a Jesus loving, just a heart for God person, it was a massive wrestle for me. Um, I the way that I think of marriage right now, having gone through marriage, having ended my marriage, which I'll go into, um, I still believe that marriage is an incredibly sacred place and it's a sacred gift from God. It's not perfect, but it's sacred. And I believe that it's a holy place. And I believe that God does release women from marriage on certain occasions when it becomes a place that is so hardened and so toxic because He's after our hearts. And I'm speaking from personal experience here. I'm speaking from the journey of my own story, as well as seeking counsel and guidance throughout the marriage, as well as being able to reflect back. And I've still got things to learn along the way. And I'm finding that as I reflect back on my marriage, I'm still finding new pearls of wisdom and things I would have done differently. So this is very much a work in progress story. But I'm going to share some of the truths that I found out, as well as the reasons about my marriage and why I left. Um,
Well, let's
uh,
start off first of all with how old were you, um, and what was your thinking about what you wanted for your future? Um, how old were you? Were you under any pressure in your own mind to get married? What is the feeling around you in the church circles about marriage? Yeah, let's start with that before we tell you, or before we talk to the audience about why you left. What was the start?
Okay. So the picture I had modeled for me right from the beginning was being brought up in a family where I had a mum and dad who loved one another and still do and love one another deeply. So I had marriage modeled really well for me. The picture I had in my head was that I was going to get married. I didn't even question that thought. And I had the beautiful picture of a few kids, some dogs, some cats, possibly a white picket fence, but just the story of this beautiful, beautiful marriage ahead of time. Divorce was never in my mind as a thing that would happen and be part of my story. Um, during my 20s, I had dated one or two guys. They were Christian guys, and that didn't work out. And then went through quite a long season where I didn't date anyone. I just enjoyed my 20s, where I traveled and um, my career was getting off to a good start, and really it was just a good time in my life. But then by the time my late 20s came, I started feeling the pressure of finding the one,
Yeah.
actually. And I met my ex-husband when I was 29. And so in my mind, that was also the perfect time to enter into a relationship in order to get married. So I had that preconception going into this relationship that now is the time if I want to have children and I want to be
Yes.
a mom in her 30s. So there was that expectation and that pressure, I think, that I placed on myself to move things forward quite quickly. Um, so when I met my ex-husband, from the outside, he had everything that I was looking for. He had a great position in a Christian perspective, and what I mean by that is in the church, he was. I won't use the word admired, but people looked up to him in the church setting,
Mm.
um, and he had a stable job, and he just had those tick boxes where I thought this is the guy that I want to marry. But yet, I there was something in my gut, an intuitive feeling that I just knew that something was off, and I couldn't put my finger on it. Um,
So I'm going to stop us there because we're going to go on to part two. But I'm sure this has captured your interest already because I think both of our heart here is A, to share the story for God's glory, but B, there are other girls in a similar situation, maybe at similar age, maybe older, maybe younger. And we hope you'll stick with the next part of the story. So we'll break it up into chunks and we'll do part two next.